employees. So how are we making the policies user-friendly? You know, it needs not to be a tick box session, but to ensure that we make sure that they understand what those policies mean. We have, like I mentioned earlier, the assistance of trade unions that have now come into play in our industry that obviously assist a lot in ensuring that the employees understand what these policies are about and understand the use and need of these policies. The challenges that we do then find is in the event that there is a lack of understanding with regards to the policies, because we work closely with the CCMA. Now we find that there is a clog in the CCMA system because both, and it's not just employees, but employers as well, need to also understand the manner in which to deal with their policies and with the employees so that there is no clog in the CCMA system with vexatious or frivolous claims, you know, that they could have dealt with at employer-employee level that didn't necessarily need to reach that level. You know, the challenges also that we find is there's a lot of resistance from certain quarters. So it's not just resistance from employers, but employees and companies as well, because I find that we, a lot of the time, sabotage ourselves as employees as well, you know, not wanting to adhere or not understanding, you know. Sometimes it's for ourselves to ensure that we understand. There can also be lack of commitment from leadership as well, not understanding that we need to go with change. So that's also another challenge that we found. There's also challenges of skills shortages in that aspect, you know, and we needing to redress the legacy, the apartheid legacy, you know. We've mentioned a few times in the audience to say we cannot move forward without addressing what has happened in the past. So it's always important to understand what happened in the past for us to be able to correct the future. So skills development in the sense that the previously disadvantaged, or like we said, the black people, we need to ensure that they are educated in order for them to be able to participate or partake in succession plans as well within business. But how do they partake in succession plans if they are not well capacitated, properly upskilled? You know, so those are the few challenges in terms of policies for them to understand that they have those rights to participate in such, in such matters within business. Thank you.
I just have a follow-up question. It was quite interesting where you said employees, actually we self-sabotage as well. What would you think are the reasons for employees not seeing the benefit or not wanting to adhere to policy and procedure? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it the way we form strategy and policy? And the English we use with policy and strategy. No one understands those words. And the person on the ground does not understand those words. Is it factors like that that influences it, that you would say that even employees don't see the benefit from it or what they can get out of it?
I think some of the time the manner in which business capacitates or hands down or sends down these policies to the layperson in inverted commas, because policy can be very daunting. You might think that you don't quite understand, whereas if it's put down as lay as possible, it's easy to understand. So like I mentioned, we do have policies and procedures in organizations. How are we disseminating it to everybody to ensure that they understand? Are we just giving it as blatantly as it's written as a policy with all the legislation, with all the terminology, and saying go and read and sign and bring it back? Then of course there's going to be a lot of pushback from those who don't understand, because like I'm saying, it's lay, and where they come from as previously disadvantaged, we didn't have the opportunities to question such things. So we get scared because we're told we're in employment, we must just sign our contracts, sign our policies, and give it back. But now when the policy is then used against you in terms of disciplinary action, then it's, but I didn't know, or I didn't understand.
Yes.
So my passion currently is to ensure that I've got different ways of ensuring that employees understand policy. There's the manner in which I address it to those who we assume are at a level of better understanding, and then you address it to those who we realize are not at that level. You know, you use different training methods or understanding methods. It doesn't have to be the same, but as long as the point is gotten across, and then we ensure that they are satisfied, and you find once satisfied, you have less issues to deal with within the workplace. Then you have less disgruntled employees and less CCMA matters that are being referred, because everybody's on the same page, everybody's of the understanding. You find that they are more susceptible to rebuke when they actually do something wrong, because they understand it's, okay, I made a mistake,
yes,
I need to correct. Because now they understand it correctly to say, actually, I shouldn't have done that.
Thank you. That gives extra insights. Thank you so much. Rita, on your side, what has been the experience in terms of policies?
Okay. So transformation in the contact center space, it's all about meeting the customer needs. It's all about the customer. They dictate their experience, their journey. And what I find that in a South African context, we've become, in the contact center space, we've become digitally arrogant that we cater for the high-end earners, right? It's people who can afford to get into the computer, can do a web chat, can actually talk to a bot, can talk to a virtual assistant. It's all that kind of thing. But what about that part of our community, okay, that cannot access the chats, that cannot access? Because after COVID-19, we've had a rise of 50% more calls because people are not out and about. They're expecting to virtually address their problems, you know. And what I find is that when I was in the contact center, I would have, like, you'd hear that the CEO of Ernst & Young had called and an agent was rude to him. But never would I hear that there was a go-go from Alex who called and she wasn't fast enough and the agent was rude to her because she couldn't quite vocalize what she wanted. So it was all about pleasing the people that had the confidence to complain. So I just feel that while digitalization is good, but it's not accessible to all. Okay? The other thing is about skilling. In a contact center, it's about the people, the process, and the technology. It's all about that. But often we want to do this remote upskilling. We want to. I was a training manager in a global cellular company. Okay, and what it was is we just got up the one day, and I found that we were all going to train on WhatsApp for business. So we got our agents quickly, no socializing of the people. It was so not humanizing to rush people, to get the agents who also are not at the maturity level. They're not flexible, they're not adaptable to that kind of change. And you bring them in and you force this process on them and this product. And then when they go back to their seats, then you'll see that, oh, WhatsApp for Business doesn't work on the screen. But those are the things that are hidden, that nobody ever sees, what these agents go through. And then when you recruit these agents, okay, our laws say there's a minimum salary. So when you recruit them, we look at, say, 100 learners. When I look at 100 candidates coming in, and only 30 of them would qualify, because these are global companies, they have high standards.
Yes.
But our schooling doesn't prepare our learners for those standards. So there's a lot of youth that are actually screened out, okay? So we hide behind this thing called BPO, Business Processing Outsourcing. Where is the law that protects our country from that, from international giants coming here and using our youth, paying them 24 Rand an hour, where about maybe 15 Rand or 10 Rand of that 24 Rand goes for their transport. So literally, they work for their transport in most cases. And although you say minimum wage, it just doesn't cover it. And these are the youth that have to go back home and look after their parents, look after younger siblings, pay for the younger siblings' schooling, or even have children themselves. So I think our policies should look at capitalist companies like those that actually abuse the unemployed youth. And then I talk about, thank you.
Very insightful.
Sorry, excuse me.
So Rita has a speaking problem because she has to drink water in between. That's how much she drinks. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
I feel so strongly about this that my
No, it's cool.
mouth actually gets about the SETAs, and I'm not here to offend anybody, but let's be real in our conversation, okay? I work with SETA fundings, and I want to do what's meaningful for our youth. But when you receive like a grant of like 10,000 Rand a youth to do a skills program, and then the funding dictates that you register a business for the youth, that itself costs like 1,500 to register a youth, right? Then you're going to do the skills program for them. That costs money. And then that youth does not have the emotional intelligence to see the long view. Because they come from households where they're spoiled, where they think they're special. And then when they come to you, they can't be one of 50 because they're so special. Okay? So then what happens then is the money is because we have to replace as well. Out of 10 that we get to start a program, 5 leave, and then you have to
Yes.
like replace. Okay? So that funding does not support what we really want to do. Besides which, I find that our policies don't allow for collaboration with the businesses,
Yes.
with the training providers. All that has happened in the past is training providers have become enriched.
Yes, 100%.
That's what happens. So all the government wants to do, they close their eyes to this. All they want to do is just to report numbers. Because recently there were 6,000 youth that were trained on solar. Okay, but when I went to kind of investigate what happened, get some stats on it, it's lost. I don't know what happened. Yes, so let's concentrate more on how we can close those gaps so our youth get equal opportunities and get fair opportunities, because really a lot of them are screened out. Okay, and I think it should start with schools. Because I do a lot of work with schools as well, because I think it starts with the schooling. And I see what happens there. 40 students to a class, teachers that are burnt out, you know, that see no light because of the violence in schools.
Yes.
So it happens from the upbringing, from the communities. I think our social part of our policies should address the social parts of our communities.
And that is quite crucial. It's the social part that keeps on being overlooked.
Yes.
And that's where the biggest impact also lies. So
Yes.
100%. Thanks, Rita, for that information
Thank
and
you. So
sharing your
I
journey.
think all I'm interested here is about the digital divide, that information.
Okay.
If I can just add to also what she's saying, where she mentioned that sometimes the youth is spoiled, you know. And there's a flip side to it. It's not always being spoiled, because when I also worked with learners, and there was a high turnover of having to replace once a program has started, it was also because when you invite them or interview them for the learnership and just trying to ascertain if they are good fit for the learnership, etc., it's out of desperation where they say, yes, they are a good fit, and they do
Yes.
want to do it, and they probably really do want to do it. However, a month or two into it, they realize that that stipend is not going to get them
Yes.
to and from where they're doing their internship, or food and transport and all of that, where you find a better advantaged individual who lives at home with mom and dad are taking care of them, or they even have a vehicle to get to the internship. A lot of the time they stay on even longer because that money actually just goes into their pocket because their parents are still providing for them. So we just need to also look at that, because the other
Yeah.
flip side is that they are really previously disadvantaged, you know,
Yes.
and they really want to do the learnerships, but they can't. And they realize that this money that I have, when I calculate it, come 15th of the month, I actually even can't continue. So the dropout a lot of the time isn't because of themselves.
Right, very interesting because there's two sides to it. I'm thinking now when I had to find a job after school, so I thought to get into a job first. Then it's literally you take a job to have a job. You take any job so that you just have a job, so that you can earn a salary. And I think that's what a lot of youth, they're in that position. And then comes the reality, and then it's like, oh, but this is not enough. This is not sufficient. I can't even get to the employer. So yes, because we've been having a lot of input in terms of that there's a lot of dropouts and complaints from various industries and employers. Noted, thanks. CFO?
It seems like it's going to be hard sitting on the last seat. I think one of the hindrances to transformation, especially talking from a public servant, is the stereotype mentality and the unnecessary red tapes. Because policy sets the principles. Then the SOP is supposed to talk to the how part. Like, for instance, in terms of HR and SCM, the policy would say you need to be fair and transparent. Now, as administrators, which we are supposed to be leading the government policies, we need to find creative ways to still meet the objective of being transparent on an objective, using the innovative ways. I'll give you an example. There are elements that legislation do allow for us to use, and specifically to achieve the transformation imperatives. To say, going out on an advert and saying, I'm looking for someone who's disabled, is deliberate. And it's a fair discrimination, because you want to achieve your transformation, your transformation targets. But most from finance or from HR will come, but there's no one, when we advertise, no one respond. Now it's more to say, when we advertise, who are we advertising to? Do we advertise in Sunday Times? How many people with disability will go to Sunday Times? There are many organizations that deals with people with disability. They can assist in terms of us identifying companies that can assist us to achieve that objective. So for the longest time, we've been talking policies. I think it's high time that now we need to move to looking at our standard operating procedures to say, are they really fit for purpose? Are they aligned to the intention of the policies? And I think just to touch on one of the comments made by my fellow panelists, to say, and still going back to the stereotype mentality, to say we are training numbers. We establish so many cooperatives, but what happens after then? No one is interested. We have pumped money into that specific cooperative, but what happens after then? We are not interested, because we have ticked the box.
Yes.
We have supported so many cooperatives, but as to whether they are functioning and meeting the objective, it's a different issue. I think what from my side, I think, and also representing a public servant, it's more to say we need to relook at our funding model, and what will be the intention for that funding model. If we are providing a stipend, is a stipend enough for the learner that we are targeting? If you are targeting a learner from a rural area, will that stipend be enough? That learner needs to leave the comfort of their homes, come to Joburg, rent an accommodation, still find money to be able to commute in between work and. So from our side, I think it's something that we really need to relook at, and not have a funding model that is one size fits all. So we need to have the deliberate intentions and have the deliberate funding for different purposes. Thanks.
Thanks so much for those inputs, and thank you for mentioning the fact that there's processes that needs to be adjusted to also obtain transformation, because ultimately it's not one thing that actually happens and that would transform. There's systems, there's processes, there's the technology, there's the soft skill aspect, the coaching, the mentoring, those human elements as well, and taking advantage of and finding each person's, finding that thing that motivates employees to want to learn, to want to transform, to want to get to that specific place. So change management in the whole process is also quite crucial. You've all given us some of the difficulties as well as some solutions. What would you say in terms of, say for instance, in the funeral industry? There's very few females in the funeral industry. What would be, what do you think, what are the possibilities to increase the rate of transformation in terms of that, and to expose more women to the funeral industry, and so that they can also be economically viable?
Thank you very much for that. You are right. Our industry shows stats that there's about 56% are males, and only 3% are persons with disabilities. So that also then leads us to deduce that there is not enough representation of females. There is not enough representation of persons with disabilities. There are a lot of programs or initiatives that can be put in place to address these challenges. One of them is obviously what I mentioned earlier, to say we need to professionalize the industry. We need to offer courses for people that are coming out of school to want to come into this industry. For now, it's an industry where people just see an opportunity to make money. And there is so much to this industry. I've been fortunate to have been able to travel and see how other countries operate. And as a country, we are really lagging behind in that. Countries that are way less developed than us, you can go to Kenya, you can go to Zimbabwe. Their mortuary science is on another level. It's competing with countries in the US because it is a professional qualification. You go to university to obtain a qualification in mortuary science. In South Africa, you have, there are initiatives that SETA has put into place where people will get your basic training. But again, who's training them? Someone who is not trained. So it also then leaves a big gap for us in the industry. So I really want to advocate for these courses to be put into place at tertiary level, TVET, universities, even in school. It is a profession. Earlier you mentioned nobody wants to talk about that, but it's something that needs to be done. After-death care is a reality. Everybody goes through it. Whether you go through it yourself as a deceased person or you go through it for your loved one. Somebody needs to do it. And for us to get it right, for our industry to be reputable, it needs to be professionalized.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. Mona, you've got some inputs as well there from your side.
Yes, I do. So I think it's important for women in careers to have access to mentorship. Mentorship is important, and that helps them propel themselves in their careers. They need to be supported. They also need to get what our male counterparts are getting, that allows them to be where they are, a lot of the times ahead of the female counterparts, including salary disparities, right? So a lot of the time we need to fight a lot harder than our male counterparts. So by virtue of them being male, they can work 24/7. They don't need to be, that's the narrative or the perception. They can work 24/7. They don't need to be home for their kids. They don't have issues. They can show up at the drop of the hat. So a lot of the time they are more suited for certain positions, And in actual fact, women are doing a lot of work in the background and not being noticed. So they do, if anything, I don't know statistics, I've never done it, but just from observation, if anything, women do as much as men or even harder. Because what do they say? They say the man is the head, the woman is the neck, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't only apply in relationships or marriages. I'd like to believe it applies in the workplace as well. We carry men quite a lot. And yes, equally so, there are men who are good for it and who are very hardworking. But can women be recognized? Can they be mentored? Can they be given support? Can performance meetings actually happen to expose those men who are not deserving? And I'm not saying this in a bad way, gentlemen, online or present, but what I'm trying to say is, and the point I'm trying to get across is that there are women equally deserving, So when we do performance plans, KPIs and all of that, can it be a true reflection? And can women get what is deserving of them?
Thank you so much. A very interesting point you've got, especially one that I always also have an issue with is the disparity in salaries. So, yeah, the job is the job. If you've got the skills, the knowledge, you're doing the job, why the salary difference based on my gender? So, yeah, it's a shame. I feel bad for the CFO being the only male here on the panel, and Kolani is coming next, so shame. Be ready. You must be ready. So, Rita, from your side?
Okay. So in the contact center industry, I've worked there long enough to say that it's very well represented by women. In fact, there are statistics to say that women are better at customer services. It has been proven, there are case studies around that. But what I feel where there is an opportunity and where we can build capability is offering older people places in those contact center seats, even if they work from home. Housewives, single women that have to look after children, that have to educate their children, that have to look after older parents. It's that kind of thing. I think we should actually open our minds to that. When I spoke about BPOs and business processing outsourcing, and it's an easy way out for international companies to come here, because with our local companies, we run the contact centers for the BPOs, okay? So there are such lean margins, and we depend on scalability for profit. And we don't think about people with disabilities, because people with disabilities would work well in contact centers. But because our margins are so lean and we're so busy chasing profit, we don't make the effort. Yes. So that's exactly how I feel about people that are left out of the industry.
100%, Rita. I had the opportunity to, within a contact center, I used to work in a contact center as well, but then I had, on the skills development side, I had the opportunity to work with the School of the Blind. Guys, it is unbelievable. These people were extremely good at working in the call center. Their listening skills were on another level. It was the most amazing thing I have ever witnessed. I could not believe that they could run and do the call center work that efficiently. And they had their pads where they had to do their reading with the braille.
Braille.
Yes, all of that. And mind you, actually, in terms of that contact center, the services SETA actually funded the equipment and all of that for that contact center, if I remember. Yes, 100%. The services SETA actually funded that and enabled us to actually employ all of those, the School of the Blind, and we provided them with computers, and they did the job sterlingly. It's really, really interesting. Then the other part I want to just touch on is with the older people, or let's say in contact centers or funeral industry, like you say, people get in, you maybe have a basic matric. How do we get those people, or how do you see it happening to get those people to get RPL for them, recognition of prior learning, so that they can move to higher ranks because they've learned a lot and have been in the job for many years. So how would that also assist in terms, it's just in the back of your mind, and then we can go with the next round. Just also that, how could that work, or what has worked for you within industry, in the various industries in terms of that?
Sorry, to your point, the other thing about contact centers, so we say that the government gazetted stipend is 2,555, right? 2,555, 2,555 rand to get to your place of work. And mostly the training providers, some of them do go out into the townships. We've had to go out into the townships so that we save costs of traveling. What about taking contact centers into the township? Those youth now don't have to spend money to travel.
get there.
So we can have them built there. It will be amazing. We'll still have profits because you'll have attendance. Because you're not in the Joburg area, there's no taxi issues. We're right out there where you are. We meet our youth where they're at. And I think that's a thought that we should actually look at as a SETA, in terms of funding.
I like the point that Rita has made. And I think it's also the responsibility of businesses to take that initiative. You can't wait for government to, take those opportunities from government. I mean, what we've done as a business, we have our own internship program that we run. We run a contact center as well, where we empower youth. Although I've been complaining about our industry not being professionalized, what we have done is that we have a program where we take in youth. Every year we have an intake of about 10 to 20 unemployed youth. And then we take them through the different departments that we have. So we'll take them through our contact centers, customer care, finance, marketing, and the mortuary side of our business, so that they can get some sort of experience and training, although it's not going to be a formal training with an accreditation, but they will have the opportunity to learn, and that will then put them in a position to then find, or even some of them, we've actually absorbed them into our business because they've done extremely well. We had a young lady that came in, she had actually applied for marketing. And she was like, listen, I think I need to be in the mortuary space. And I said to her, have you ever seen a dead body? And she's like, no. I'm telling you, that girl excelled. She did amazingly well. And, then the youth that we get into these programs, then they start wanting to say, okay, I think the closest thing I can do to mortuary science is forensic pathology, And we encourage them because that is what we have available. But it is also the responsibility of businesses to make these opportunities available for the youth.
No, thanks. And there's a buzzword that we normally say on reasonable accommodation. And most of the time, it's deemed to be only referring to persons with disabilities. And from my fellow panelists, you can tell that from all types of employees, we need to provide reasonable accommodation for them to be able to perform. And one element that I think has been neglected for a while is the concept of mentorship and support, which I think it needs to be revived. As at some point it was seemed to be a nice to have, but for us to achieve the transformation that we really need, you will need the continuous mentorship and support for all age groups. That will also assist in them working together and being able to gel from youth, adults, and the elderly ones. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
May I add?
Yeah, you can add as quick. We need to just go to questions. Okay. You'll add after. Thanks. So I think it's time we can go to questions. So are there any questions from the audience? Oh, at the same time, those hands went up. The lady there in the middle. No? Yes, you put your hand up, yes. Can you?
Hello, everybody. Hi. My name is Reabete Makokwe. I am an economist by profession, but I own an interior design company called Pride Ornamental. And I'm also on the board of South African Youth in Property Association. And just to give you a bit of context before I go to my question. As an interior designer, I have a lot of people working with me. I have architects, engineers, contractors, etc. This is a whole economy of people, right? And I think ever since I started the company, I've been looking for a way to sort of build my company to be what it's supposed to be. And I think that has been one of the biggest challenges that I've had this far. And I think my question to the panelists is, how do I then say, look, I have successfully run my company for the past 5 years, but I need capacity. I need help. I need a team. I need funding, financing, whatever it is, I need help. How do I go about approaching SETA to say that this is what I need and this is what I need it for and these are my reasons? Also because I think it was mentioned in the first panel that as a Black woman, one of the first things that come to people's minds is doubt, you know? And I cannot cast out that doubt without the capacity that I need or the support or the mentorship or the backing that I need to be able to do that. Is my work good? Yes, it's great. But people need to see the backing and the support to be able to trust me, to be able to say that, okay, we understand that you will actually be able to do the work. And that's not something that I myself can run away from, no matter how good presenting or how amazing presenting or what brand I build for my business, which has gotten me this far. But for the type of work that I do, I need to be able to present the capacity to my clients to say that I have a team of very skilled youth that is working with me, or very skilled individuals that is working with me to be able to make this project come alive. And also, for example, the first time I put out a work post, a job post, the first time I ever put out a job post, I had over 500 applicants in my emails, over 500. And this was across every part of interior design there could be. You know, this was product designers, furniture designers, interior designers themselves, you know, project managers. And that was mostly youth, mostly people coming directly from varsity. They don't have anybody to say, look, this is how you do it. The people that come to me that send me messages and say, we have no idea how to get into this industry. And I had no idea either, but I'm in here now. And the opportunity to create opportunities. I have the platform to create opportunities for people that are coming. So my question would be, how do I then come to Service SETA and say, approach or channels do I take in order to make sure that I'm doing it in the most successful way possible?
I used to be involved in the training of entrepreneurs who've applied for funding through the Jobs Fund, with National Treasury. So I think the question you need to ask yourself, are you investment ready? Meaning that if the investor, and in not necessarily services SETA, but like CIFA and other grant and the jobs funds and things, then you've got to look at your books for 5 years. Is there an upward trajectory? If you did a SWOT analysis, right? Because those are the questions that you will be faced with. As an entrepreneur, you need to know your business for the funder to have confidence to invest in your business. So you've got to do that SWOT analysis and look at your trajectory of income, right? And how you've managed the income and the expenses. When you have all of that and you're ready, then Google or look at the funders that are available to give you funding. Then also you must be contributing to skills because you pay tax. Okay, so then your money is you are paying towards a skills levy. Find out which SETA you're aligned to. If you can, which SETA, does anybody know? The services here. Okay, I thought there was a special kind of, okay, the services SETA. And then you've got to actually do a work skills plan and whatever it is that they require and apply for funding. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Rita. And I think we can take the next question. Can you just give her a mic, please?
Just switch it on now. Hi, my name is Tubelisha Stole. I'm a managing director for a company called Great Albatross Research and Advisory, which I founded in 2015. I've been running it since. So just by a show of hands, I know where I'm going with this, just by a show of hands, how many of us in the room, including the panelists and everybody else in the room, have founded a company and have run it for 10 years consecutively and hired more than 2 people? 10 years. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. It's actually more than what I expected. The reason why I'm asking this question is because if we are going to be running the transformation workshop like we are doing now, it's going to end up like an echo chamber of sorts, because you are not going to have key stakeholders in different sectors and in different industries within the services SETA coming in here to be part of the conversation. So my suggestion is maybe at some point, the services SETA will need to commission a company perception survey as to what are the business owners' perceptions regarding transformation. Then you'll find reasons, or you'll find answers to some of the questions that have been asked here about why is it that a certain group of people are not here? Why is it that a certain race of people are not here? Because I can tell you now, from my own personal take, no matter what transformation is needed, or no matter what are the perceptions in terms of transformation, I'm not going to hire anyone in my company who's not going to fit with my company culture. And company cultures vary. I will hire a Chinese or a white person over a black trans as long as that particular person contributes to my company's bottom line. So those are the realities you might find when you run these company perception surveys as to why is there resistance in terms of transformation. So my point would be perhaps we might need to involve companies more than we do administrators and everybody else, because there are big companies which are owned by black people, which are owned by white people, that of which that we want to see it through them. So we will need to do that to find out the reasons why is there resistance, so to speak. Thank you.
Can I just comment on that? Yes. Yeah, that's a great comment. But, you know, what I understand as business people is that transformation starts with you, nobody else. You can't rely on government, on funders, on other companies. It is all up to you. And I'm talking from personal experience. We have never had any sort of funding. Even our internship program is solely funded through our foundation. We rely absolutely on nobody. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it all starts with you. It does not have to be a big thing like getting 100 interns. You can start with one. As long as you're giving a person an opportunity to upskill themselves. And like Rita mentioned earlier, if you're contributing to SDL, you can claim that money.
We just had a hand up at the back, the lady earlier, in the green. Can you please give a mic? Thank you. Hi. Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? I am proud to be here as one of your transformationalists. I'm quite emotional to be standing here. I'm working very closely with SARS, which is the South African Health and Skincare Professionals, and we've just recently had an Indaba, and when I hear what about skills shortages, the apartheid legacy, we need to talk about it. We need to accept it's not going to go away. We need to accept our past so that we can build our future. But we need to unite everyone. And I'm very proud to say that we recently had this fantastic Indaba where we pulled in all the stakeholders. And we had Services SETA, we had QCTO, we had people from SAQA, we had therapists, we had schools, we had product houses, and we're working very closely on building a new industry where people are giving back. We are using a grading system for professionalism. We are using our professional body to make sure that everybody that's involved has got a designation from when they've started. And we've also united our schools so that we can also do our skills development with RPL, and we can take in learnerships, employed and unemployed. And I just think I want to make 2 points that we need to listen to our stakeholders here who are saying maybe the money is not enough. And we maybe have to go for less learners, but we have to make them competent so that they can become employable and they can grow our industry and they can grow industries as well. And I think we need to listen a little bit more about what we are saying and how we can support transformation, but all together. And it starts with us, it starts with me, it starts with you. And if we can listen to one another, we can go further quicker. And there's an old African proverb that says, together, we hope that we can go further with Services SETA and we can listen to one another and we can transform. And my last point is the unregulated industries. We need to regulate them, and that's what we are trying to do in our industry with our grading system. But we need support from government, and we need to regulate. Thank you. Thank you so much for those inputs. The CFO needs to go, so CFO, we are okay if you need to exit. Thank you for gracing us with your presence as a panelist. So I'm sorry I kept you for longer. Fikile was going to kill me here. Thank you so much. I think we need to also take some questions from the people online, and then we are going to do two questions online, and then we're going to close because we are running out of time. You don't know how many closing signs I'm getting from the audience here. Guys, you're the pressure. It's hectic. So online, we had a question of what are the advantages of labor broking and what are the disadvantages? So they would like to know what that is.
All right, thank you for that. I can't speak into labor broking, but I can speak into temporary employment services. So the advantage, is that we are regulated by the Labor Relations Act, as well as and many other acts. The advantages are that the employees are then deemed what we call to be deemed. So meaning that they get equal treatment, fair treatment like any other employee. So as much as they are temporary employees, but they get fair treatment, equal benefits, etc. So those are the advantages. I wouldn't say there are disadvantages because, like I've just mentioned, you get treated the same. Perhaps maybe one can look at a contract being terminated as a disadvantage. However, even if you are in permanent employment, contract can still be terminated. So I wouldn't really say disadvantage, but there are equal advantages as a person who's employed permanently.
Thank you so much. Then I'm taking another question from what was online. There's a comment and then a question as well. In terms of government, that the KPIs with regards to transformation and transformational issues and agenda within government, would it not be better if that officials that are responsible for that specific KPI has to, just like private companies, because private companies get penalized if, yeah, Julia, it's one of those questions, your face. So it's like the private sector gets penalized in terms of then you won't get government contracts because you're not transformational. So now they're asking the inverse. So if government is not bringing their side, how about them being held to task and because their KPI informs it that there must be repercussions that you did not adhere or transform as you were supposed to. So that is the question. So basically, should officials not also, government officials also not be penalized as private companies are penalized because they cannot take part in it due to them not meeting transformation targets. So that is a question from online. I don't know specifically who asked it. Pardon?
Auditor General usually will give you a slap on the wrist as far as penalizing. And I think also when we say government is quite difficult because government is all of us, you know? So, but you have to report to the BE Commission, there's the Auditor General, you do get a slap on the wrist. So I hope that has answered, that sufficed enough as an answer.
Yeah, hopefully it suffices. It's the question online. So I think we are going to wrap up because our time is up. Thank you very much for the inputs. Thank you so much to the panel. Very insightful. Thanks so much. We are breaking for lunch. Oh, they want to continue third batch afterwards. So Fikile will be the facilitator, continuing with the facilitation of the last panel. So can the last panel also just here for you?
Of hands, who needs a bathroom or to stretch nje? Hey, it's been a long morning, man. Should we take 5? Please. Just 5. Good afternoon once more. Can we settle in, please? Are we waiting for our crew to settle? Thanks. Thank you so much and welcome back. We needed that 5 minutes, Mama Bell. Yo. We always say she's a slave driver, that one. She just wants to make us work the whole day. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Figile Maila. I am a senior manager here at Services SETA, reporting under finance, to be specific, supply chain management. So, yeah, it's quite a topic in terms of transformation, and I'm very passionate about it as well. Our panel here, it's not about me, by the way, today. It's about our panelists who are well informed and who are specialists. And we're here to talk about the solutions for advancing transformation, right? So I will then let our panelists to introduce themselves, and we will take it from here. And our colleagues online, are you still there? Thumbs up, Nyana. Good. Welcome, ma'am. You can introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Telen Nishabango. I'm from Rihlazana Auctions. I started my auctioneering house, I think it's in 2010, but the background of it, I am a teacher by profession. So, you know, after completing my BA in HED, there was no employment. Then I end up in Gauteng without a job. Then I was appointed at Rani Auctioneers. As you all know him, as Dr. Mabunda is one of the first black male auctioneers in South Africa. So when I started as a receptionist. Then I just had a passion about auctioneering. Since you know that auctioneering is more Jewish industry, it's not us blacks. So after some times I went to Allen, by the time I was working there, I said, what is auctioneering? Then he said, no, it's selling of redundant asset. I said, what do you mean? Then he said to me, if your department has used the assets, then they are not using it. So you go in as an auctioneer, and then you sell those assets. And then I started having a passion for it. From the receptionist, I went out, I'm doing the ITC. Then I started doing marketing. Then from there, the passion was just going on. So I started spotting for him. As he was doing the chanting, I was doing the spotting. Then with that passion, I realized, I think it was in 2010, when I started my own auctioneering house, Rihlazana Auctions, and I was one of the first black women in South Africa to
That
open the
deserves a hand,
auctioneering house. So from 2010, in 2011, I was appointed to sit at the SIA board, South African Institute of Auctioneers. I was one of the first black women to sit at the SIA board. Because of sitting at the SIA board, I was elected now, nominated to sit at the SETA board. So I sat at the SETA board from, I think it was from 2013 up until 2019. But in between, I shifted from the South African Institute of Auctioneers. I went to the SAPA, where I'm a secretary now. I'm still sitting at the SAPA now. So yes, auctioneering, I'll say that it's partially transformed because I think we are getting there from where I've started now with 23 years of experience in auctioneering. The SIA, for instance, they are trying. I remember Emma will be my witness when we did the AGM last year, because on our site, there's a 5-day course. that they said, you are qualified as an auctioneer. So some of us, we went through that 5 days course saying that we are auctioneers. But in that 5 days course, you don't learn much about the industry if you don't have the background of it. So the ones that are having the qualification of your real diploma and the degree, that's the one that they are doing the NAA in the US. So Emma sat down with, I think it was with Sonia, saying that, you know what, you guys, you are not regulated, because from where we are sitting, I think when she was talking about regulation, I was like, I'm there. So on our side as SAYA, regulation that we are following, because we are real estate and related services. So on that one, we are regulated only by PPRA
Yes.
and the Second-Hand Goods and the Consumer Protection Act. That's the one that is regulating us. So I was happy when we did the AGM last year, when we spoke about this NQF level 4 of the one that is accredited by Services SETA, then saying that, how are we going to manage this? So they came on board, and I saw now, I think it was last month or so, they are having an intake. They've got funding from the Services SETA as SAYA for them to train the employed for NQF level 4. But for now, we are still saying that the NQF level 4, it's more on the administration side. So we are asking for the Services SETA again to saying that, can we get NQF level 5, where the learners that will be qualifying for NQF level 4 will proceed to NQF level 5, where they are going to do the chanting, because the chanting is not included in the NQF level 4. So, yes,
Services
I think I've
SETA,
covered
there's a
everything.
request, level 5. Nine plug, ne? I hope ni tolil. Aba fast by tolil. Thank you, ma'am. Sir, please go ahead.
Is this on, Mhlekazi? Yeah. Okay, because ESCOM is a problem, so. My name is Xolani Mpahlwa. I'm part of the MPS chamber, but if I introduce myself, I will say I'm in leadership, so I'm in board leadership, I'm in strategy, and also I'm part of the qualifications development in terms of our sector. There's my colleague from SASTU. I'm part of the leadership from SASTU, a professional body for quality. And I'm also an expert that represents South Africa at International Standardization Organization, ISO. And I'm currently the chairperson for the country in terms of matters that talk to quality assurance and quality management system. So I am a servant of the country. And I've been in the industry probably for around 24 years. And I understand transformation, having been in leadership and in management from junior management time, where I was part of employment equity, affirmative action committees, and I understood the importance of the role of those committees when we started this journey of transformation. And I think since then, I've taken interest in understanding the role that one needs to play to facilitate this transformation, because it's not a simple one. Activity and effort from a policy point of view, but we see from our discussion, I'm hoping we will raise and touch on some of the issues and how can we implement this to achieve those objectives and get tangibles from those objectives. So I think, yeah, that's how I would introduce myself. Otherwise, I normally get introduced. So
Yes.
I don't know.
I didn't want to limit you,
I don't
but
want to talk too
I
long.
didn't want to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Konis Kosana. I am an HR manager, or you can say HR generalist. I have experience in diverse industries, spanning from construction and engineering. I'm mentioning it now because that's how I got launched into transformation.
Yes.
If you guys know, before their plummet, construction was really desperate to be transformed. The boardrooms at the time, I'm talking as recent as 2018, were mostly just lily white and mostly male oriented. So I have had to be very, very much involved, even though some of the companies didn't really win. Group 5 had to close doors and I was there. But however, I had the most exposure in all the elements of transformation at Group 5, which I have then taken further into their tolling division, concessions and investments, as well as other divisions, because they were multidisciplinary. So I would then take the experience in there, and as of then moved to manufacturing, and then now I'm also with the rental companies for earth moving. So there's a bit of a trend in engineering for me. So I'm with this earth moving equipment or yellow metal industry company. They rent and sell the earth moving equipment to mines, and the main skills there are artisans. So we need to have artisans that are qualified, and there's no gamble there. That's where the close relationship with the training authorities comes in. But then also, to be able to successfully rent and sell, you need astute salespeople. So what my conversations with Ausma Mabele and Nomfezeko, where they really started or originated, was when I raised the points that, for me, I don't know where else to go for things such as product training. How can that be formalized? Product knowledge training, because for you to be able to sell effectively or to present, you can understand and you can be as technical as you want and understand the machine from back to front. But if you don't have the selling skills, if you cannot defend your product against other competition, you cannot sell effectively. So further to that, to address other issues, especially at work readiness level, in my own personal capacity, I have registered a company, by the way, but I've had to park it a bit to be able to get back into employment, thanks to load shedding, the 8-hour span, if you guys remember it. But I didn't stop. Weekends, I would still invite job seekers, which I have in a group on a WhatsApp or whatever platform where I can network with them. I develop their CVs, LinkedIn profiles, and then I prep them for interviews so that at least they have one thing that can get them into to get their foot into the job market. And then further to that, I would then just follow up and then see how they are faring. If they are ready again for another job, let's say 2-3 years later, then I'm still there to say, this is now how you can navigate internally or seek other opportunities if internally it's not easy to move.
Thank you for that, Connie. Can we give them a hand, please? As I've mentioned earlier on, the purpose of this panel is to give solutions for advancing this transformation that we're talking about. The past 2 channels spoke about a lot of challenges and barriers and other exciting things that we're already doing, which is not good enough at this stage. And we've been talking about transformation forever. It's been a talk shop. So we now need to escalate, we need to be intentional, we need to ensure that we implement. We spoke about challenges such as access to digitalization, labor law was one of them. We had challenges with budget constraints. I guess that's how, when we do our learnerships as Services SETA, we also consider such, because we are a government entity. And people mentioned that maybe we should change the structure and so on. Those are the things that we are working on, but obviously there are budget constraints that are in place. We spoke about lack of poor resources, skills shortages. Regulation was a big one, and policies. But now, when you were talking about, you also mentioned it, Delaney, now, to say you were a bit excited when they were talking about their industry not being regulated, because yours, it's gone a further step up. In my environment, for an example, regulation can be a big barrier. Yes, we try to be compliant and so on, but there's a lot of barriers because of legislation, if you think about it. So you are still flexible if you are not legislated. Yet I know you want to be. Maybe let's look at professionalizing it more, than because the minute you are regulated, trust me, it's one of those things where you cannot even get 3 codes in a day. I'm in that space now because regulation and my policy says that I need to, besides following PFMA, I need to ensure that I give service providers enough time to respond. If I don't, I'm non-compliant. So I need to recommend certain service providers. If I don't, I'm non-compliant. I need to look at CSD's suppliers. I mean, you look at our suppliers that we're giving them a chance. We were talking earlier on to say most, especially the SMMEs, we have a challenge of them not performing. It's like when you want to give a young girl a chance and then they just disappoint you. They go groove. They don't pitch up for work. You give this as a small company work, they just don't perform. What do? It needs to start with me. Someone gave me a chance in the past. That's why I'm sitting here. I need to give that service provider who does not have experience a chance for them. I need to give that young girl. I mean, when we go for a requirement, I always say, "Gusis Tapsile, your requirements are so tight." And how are we going to give these young kids a chance if we want experience of 4 years? I just graduated. Where am I supposed to get the 4 years from? You know, you are an SMME. Where are you supposed to have recommendations or references, I-20? Where did you work? Who gave you a chance if we don't do that? So we have a lot of challenges that we looked at. There's issues, I'm sure there's big ones. When I was doing some research on your industry, auctioneering, there's challenges in terms of the cybersecurity. There's challenges in terms of the regulation itself that, yes, you are regulated, but there's also challenges in verifying some of those auctioneers. So we now need to say, what do we then do in terms of giving the solutions? What innovative solution or strategies can we then address to these key challenges that we've mentioned on the past 2 panels, as well as we look at the macro challenges as a country. There's unemployment, you look at inflation, you look at, there's just too much. I mean, there's load shedding, there's companies are closing down, and yet we still want transformation. How do you then transform if there's no jobs? Who do you transform? Because unemployment is at a high. I think we're sitting at 39% to date. It's just at another stage, but we need to come up with innovative solutions to say, what do we then do? Let's talk. It's a dialogue after all. What do we do?
Okay, may I begin?
Okay.
Okay, I
Please
see you're a
do.
bit shy.
Please, Bolan.
Okay, I think the solutions are there for us. You know, like I said, if you have a legislation that is saying BCA and LRA and what and EEA and triple BE and regulations are there,
Yes.
right? So the solution is there. Where we fail is, for example, we have a Department of Labor that will always give us a report annually that says there is no transformation, right? And it never actually comes with recommendations and also targets and how cumulatively are we going to measure these targets. So then why are we having a report that tells us nothing? A report is supposed to tell us this is what we found and this is a recommendation and this is how we're going to get to the destination. So I think we have solutions within our reach, number one. And I think another issue also that I think we sometimes forget that there's that thing called rent seeking. Okay, there's manipulation that happens within these policies in terms of how they are implemented and how they are not implemented. These are the underlying things. And transformation is very difficult because of those, and we need to understand those. How do we identify them, and how do we mitigate against them, right? So the example you want to touch on now, black industrialist, if black industrialist can be, as it is perceived by many, monopoly money, because monopoly money is nothing real. So it is perceived as that. The reason it's perceived like that because you would be having a barometer that says services SETA or another SETA is able to train their internships, okay, their learnerships into those companies that are part of Black Industrialists. So those companies that are part of Black Industrialists, you may not be able to understand how much of it exists because then there's no correlation in terms of the consumption of the learnerships, you know, and that and that. So there must be a way that we measure things, and that for me is a first departure point. What do we have? How do we measure it? And how far are we from the targets we are envisaging to achieve? So I think I'll start with those words. Thanks.
Let's pause there. Thank you very much. I was about to say.
Yeah.
Okay, from my
Yes,
side, I will first express gratitude to Services SETA. It took a bit of footwork for Umamabele no Fezeko. They literally came to one of my workshops, and I did indicate to them that at that point, I was struggling with workplace approval, but just by virtue of them showing up, I think it was just one visit, and with the team and them having been visible, then I started getting so much buy-in when I mentioned skills development, whether it's from the ACT point of view and the compliance requirement, or whether it's from enhancing and improving performance internally and capacitating our employees. Example is that our mechanics are no longer only required to be able to repair, they also need to marry their skill with a little bit of electrical. So when you present those suggestions, and then when there's someone coming to your office and being visible or keeping in regular contact, then it facilitates for a much better conversation. I think HR people will understand, or anybody who has been involved into having to get buy-in. Firstly, for the training budget itself, I mean, we know there's a stipulation of what the allocation must be annually. But every year, you find yourself having to negotiate for that. But if you don't, surround yourself with people or resources that will then enable your conversations and your presentations to be well received and timelessly approved, then you're sort of fighting a losing battle.
Very true.
You can't keep on mentioning Services SETA that can support us probably with part of funding when you don't even know their address. You know.
Now we're chasing those now because we did our targets. Eh?
Address.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that. I just wanted maybe at the back of your mind in terms of empowering women in terms of what you do. How much of it, what are the targets? And where are they now? What's happening? Because I think we are about numbers.
Totally.
To say we are now level, Joanna is chasing level 3. Yeah, we're somewhere 4, 5 now.
Yes.
We always say, what is the EE target?
Yes.
We need to come to a point where it's a lifestyle. It's no longer about reporting numbers by looking good, because we know, we spoke about fronting earlier on,
Yes.
but let's park that for later and give Telani a chance.
I think from the Services SETA side, because remember all the chambers,
Yes.
the 6 chambers. So you have all those companies that paying levy to that specific chamber. So I think from my side is looking at those companies that are paying levies, because when it comes to transformation, you'll find that these companies, they are big, but when you train learners, we'll train them with the theory part for the first 4 months. Then the remaining month, they have to do the practical.
Yes.
So for these companies to absorb those learners for the workplace, because that's what they need, the workplace. And again, some industry, especially where I'm coming from, since it's still more on your Jewish and
Yeah,
they want to hold this to
Of course,
themselves.
yeah.
So they are thinking that the same student that will be qualifying for NQF level 4, when they have to go and do practicals in their companies, that means now they are competitors.
Yes.
So if we can just try that and saying that as the levy payers for the services SETA, can you open your doors for these black kids to come and do the workplace to them, train them so that in future they will have their own companies as well.
Practicals, 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 all the way. Thank you to the panel. What we will do now, we will also open the floor. I just don't want to keep it here for too long. You see the hands are already so up. Because we're talking about transformation, we'll start with the lady, and then guy with the white shirt will be number 2, and you'll be number 3, sir.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emma Gampele. I am positioned within the chamber operations, which is the lifeblood of the services SETA. How so are we the lifeblood of the service SETA? Is that you are paying your levies to SARS, and that money comes directly into the SETAs and segmented in different ways. Now, I just want to touch on the issue, just to demystify, the issue of the regulations. Why do we need to regulate our industries? We need to have an alignment between industry, attitude, and expectation from the public. And over and above that, we need to have skills that are fit for purpose. Over and above that, we need to have consequences for the industries that are not compliant.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to demystify that. Let's come to the issues of skills development. What is the issue here of skills development? We are paying levies to SARS, and those levies come to the service SETA. However, the beneficiaries are not our member companies. We are benefiting skills development participants or skills development players, because companies are not in business to train people. It is part of it's an afterthought for them, and for them to actually make their triple BEE elements. Skills development, before the SETAs, the levies were 6%. Now the minimum has become a standard, which is 1%. That is the problem. And the lady was talking about agile leadership. I want to add an element of quantum leadership. Because in the fourth revolution, now we are not talking agility anymore. We're talking quantum, which has an element of humanity. So as we are dealing with the computers and the programming and everything, we are forgetting the benefits that the SETAs do, particularly for our industry. We've got benefits like your candidacy, your RPL, your CPD, your IET. Those tools we are not using as the industry. What is IET, for instance? You can tell me more about ABET, because it's adult education and all that, but IET, it's about looking at the skills gaps and closing those skills gaps. Let's talk about the unions, for instance. Unions are becoming signatories of the triple BEE and employment equity, and they are just not contributing to what the skills planning. Now, coming back to the SETA, the submission of WSP ATR. When you submit those things, it comes back to our unit, which is strategy and planning. We do skills planning. There is no way in South Africa where we're saying a contact center is a critical skill. We've got an issue there. Because that document, colleagues, goes to the Department of Home Affairs. It opens up an influx of foreigners in our country. What are we saying about the quantitative or qualitative skills planning, particularly from the SETA? We are expert in skills development, and we are not expert in industry. We need you as much as possible. Now, where we lost it in the SETA space, remember, we used to report to the Department of Labor, and the stats, what's coming qualitatively from the Department of Labor. We moved to the Department of Higher Education, but we left our social partners behind. Olani spoke about rent seeking. Rent seeking, what our industries have mastered in the SETAs, and I'm going to be brutal, is to use our systems against ourselves. That is a fact. And when we're talking about transformation, transformation is an attitude. And Mom Julia, my chairperson and my beautiful leader, said that it is discretionary for industries to participate in transformation. What these industries have done is to build their own ivory towers where they support each other. But what are we then saying? We've got, when we're talking about transformation, we've got your EAP.
You've got 2 minutes now, ma'am.
All right, your economic active participation. We've got your national targets. We've got your provincial targets. Now we've got a ministerial determination and all that. It is all confusing. We need to pull it together for the betterment of our country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that contribution, ma'am. I think while we at that point, we can also think about what can we leverage from emerging technologies to drive this positive, transformation in a positive way. You are audible, sir. Go ahead. Your mic is on.
Thank you. Greetings to all. Why I had to speak after you, ma'am. What I'm supposed to say. Intentional, fundamental, and systematic. That's what we had when we started. I got very excited when this transformation was explained to us. I will repeat, intentional, fundamental, and systematic. The reason why I got excited, I thought we were going to speak along these lines. But throughout the discussion, I realized that actually, we are not speaking about fundamental things. We are not speaking about systematic. We are not even acknowledging them. That we are where we are at 30 years down the line because they are systematic issues that we need to deal with. You can't speak about being fundamental and don't speak about the Constitution because everything starts and derives, flows from there. When you speak regulation, you speak legislation, all of them, they derive their powers from the Constitution. And if you want to speak about real transformation, yes, we sold the idea that this is the best constitution in the whole world. That's what we sold. But for who? As I want to submit that it's not for us, black people. And I want to submit as well and say to you guys, as black people, we might be majority in terms of population, but we are a minority in terms of economy. We are, and the most fundamental one, we are a minority in terms of culturally. As much as we are 80%, culturally we are a minority. And that is why you did not understand this gentleman's point. When he said, people they employ, if you are not culturally fit, you can speak, whether it's Jews, whether it's other things, if you are not culturally fit, they will spit you out. They will use you, but they will spit you out very quickly. And we need to accept that. And actually, I might even add and say, socially, social capital, we are a minority. Because it derived from economic capital. Okay, that was my little rant there. let me come back. Because, yep, told me.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll confine my solutions to this level where we are operating at, because it's at the operational level. Let's agree. All the things that we've been speaking about is at the operational level. And I will even confine my suggestion to the services sector. Okay, generally to
It's
the
a services sector that we're talking about. Say, don't limit yourself. You don't need to be operational.
Okay.
Go to strategic. We're at that level. Yes, be you. We're here for you. That's why we invited you. We want to hear.
Yeah, I have many, but I will limit it to 3.
It's fine. We're listening.
The first one. Who's here? Because we agree, although it's not enough, representation is no longer a big issue. I think the panelists have been. Actually, this is issue because we are not meeting the targets. However, at least there's something there. We are seeing movement. But the challenge is always on the economic side in terms of procurement and owning. If you look who is heading transformation heads, whether it's change management, transformation, ESD, actually you will find out there are black people. But even say over 60% are women. At least those that I've dealt with in JSEs and everywhere.
Sure.
It's black people. The question is, do we have the right transformation people? Spoke about attitude. The people who are heading this transformation are the right people. What due diligence are we looking at? It's because you are black, and then they put you there and said, you follow. So long as you get your check, but fundamentally you are there. You are not even, as you rise, you are not picking up. Once you get there. But the issue is we can't blame those people. Where is the proper training of transformation manager? I think, Mama Bele, I was in one session where we were discussing transformation manager course. And I want to suggest that once it is there, for you to sit in a transformation committee, employment equity and things like that, you must have went through that. Just like accountants, I'm from Black Management Forum. So we are registering with SAQA.
You've got 2 minutes then.
Okay. I'll explain later then. But we need to professionalize transformation because it's key. And then we need to have professionals heading transformation committees and that. That's number one. With 2 minutes, I think I will reduce them to 2. Let me choose which one. No, I need 3. Please, I'm another 2 minutes. Intention, when you speak, I want to propose SMME internship program. I will explain why. I've been into entrepreneurship for over 25 years myself. And with these internships as well. The people where you get more value is when the youngsters, they go and work for SMMEs. Because they are not confined to a certain department. They are not, actually they get exposed. At times we even say, you are doing finance, this thing, you are logistics, and things like that. But what we are seeing is the SETAs, they don't have a good perception about SMME, and actually as an SM, they don't get allocations. We rather give allocation to this big where they are going to confine to do photocopying and things like that. We even send them to government departments where they don't do anything. They collect their stipends. And actually, when you take this SMME to the SMME, you are killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You are upskilling, giving the opportunity to the to the youngsters, but you are capacitating these young ladies. Who said, I'm alone. So you are giving her capacity that she is looking for.
True.
And therefore, I'm saying let's be intentional, let's be deliberate. Okay, that was the second one. I have the last one.
You've got 1 minute now.
Yeah, okay, on this one, I'm not going to explain, I'm going to say it.
All right.
And it's related to the last point.
Okay.
I will want service SETA as you allocate DGs and MGs or what, but let's be biased towards, especially services SETA. Let's be biased towards the SMMEs. And the main reason is, we have been begging this. I serve in a chamber as well. Every time we get reports that people are not submitting WSP, they are not performing this. It's because they are not really looking for that. Actually, it's a problem to them. You are giving a nonsense. People who really need them and things like that is us SMME, so that we get capacity and we develop ourselves so that we become bigger and we become able to pay skills levy as well. And then you increase your income base. So your allocation as service sector, policy level or things like that, I want to propose that let's be biased towards SMME. I know that we might not be levy paying. But if you give us and then you grow us to such an extent that we are levy pay, I think we will assist on the transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Just to add, in terms of being biased to SMMEs, I agree. And I think, Johanna, I'm not sure if she's still here, we've been talking about supplier development, which is a big element in our space because, yes, we open the windows, we do tenders and so on, but the quality of the documents that we receive, I mean, those specifications most of the time are tailor-made so that they are suited to those SMMEs. But when we receive the proposals, it's just at another level. It's, you know, they are not compliant, their proposals, there's no effort that is put to it. It's so disappointing. To your point that, yes, we are biased and we ensure that they are sort of aligned to cater for them. But we also need to do supplier development on our side to ensure that they are compliant and they know what to submit when there are those opportunities. Sorry, ma'am, you were next. Oh, it's you, sir. Please go ahead.
Oh, greetings, everyone.
How many points do you have? Sorry. Maybe we need to delay.
I just have 2. I'll try to be short.
Okay.
And it's very difficult to speak after the elders have spoken.
Hey.
So I guess I'm in a very tough spot. But before I go any further, I would like to say my name is Siyabonga Mshibe.
Hi, Siyabonga.
I'm a property practitioner. I'm also a product of Service SETA, by the way, a proud one. By so saying, I mean, I benefited from a lot of programs that were initiated by Services SETA. And I was also excited to be part of this transformation dialogue because it also paves way for us to speak solutions of what we encountered in transformation. Family, I believe you can't speak of transformation without involving young people because, I mean, if we transform with the youth, they're going to definitely lead the generation of tomorrow. And we spoke of the numbers of high unemployment rate. We know now we're sitting on 38%, 39%, 72% of that being the youth. So it's challenging. And I'm from a sector whereby there are a lot of gatekeepers. And we'll speak that family. I know they might be listening, saying, okay, what did this young man say? and the gatekeeping is very sad because it deprives us an opportunity to actually lead businesses in real estate. Currently, we've got 42,000 registered property practitioners. Out of that 42,000, only find 12,000 being the PDIs, previously disadvantaged individuals. But also, if you were to look into that PDI, it's not really PDIs because if you go to rural areas, you find people that can't even access the regulators of real estate. And it's challenging with having to see the programs that we go through. So my first point would be under the education. Okay. You enroll into a program by Services SETA, you go into a training institution. That training institution ticked all the boxes in terms of tendering for them to apply or train. But you find that the quality content that is being provided is not at the level that gives us confidence to go into the sector and be competitive. So I think my question would be to Service SETA. How are we addressing the issue of moving from just ticking boxes and being allocated to train and having qualified and competent training institutions that also have the transformation agenda? It's not only about them. Because as we sit here as young people, you get trained. I once went into an institution, by the way. You find a facilitator asking us, what are we doing next? And it's very sad because now we as black people are taken for a ride because now it's like, no, it's an opportunity, go there, take it, learn. It must never like that. Hence, the terminology I'm getting today, I'm happy about it. We must be intentional about transformation. Do we really want to do this? or not? So my first question, I think it's on the educational part. How are we then addressing the issue of education to ensure that all the programs, I mean, we can issue funding, we can issue millions, but if you can check the numbers, on the numbers of learners that are enrolled in those programs, and are they getting quality education? And the last point would be nurturing the learners who've already enrolled in the sector. By so saying, I mean that we have trained 1,000 learners in 2018. What assurance, I know that SETA does what we call tracer studies. They send you an email, want to understand what do you do, how was your learnership. But imagine me being frustrated by a sector. Do you really think I would respond to that email? Chances are, not, are that I would never respond to that. And if you take me from having a simple metric to NTF level 5, what follow-up measurements, continuous programs are we implementing to make sure that we move you from one point to actually elevating you to become more than one, or one of the best practitioners in businesses? The example I'll use so that as I close is that if we look into the model of the person that is leading PEM Golding right now, which is Andrew Goldings, he grew up in a real estate firm, understanding how a real estate operations operate. And when it was time for him to take over, now he's leading over 380 franchises across. So it then tells us that it's very important for us also to invest in these content at a very young age. But if we start our note in a very bad way, and I'm saying this because at the end of the day, we end up naming these things as pilot projects. We must not pilot with our lives and young people. So I think that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sia, thank you. I think that takes us to the question of how do we then sustain this transformation that we're trying to build? Because we cannot just say we've got the numbers, we met the targets, and we move on. But how do we then ensure that there's sustainability? I will give my panels to answer.
Yeah.
I thought Kulani you'll want to get that.
I wondered, am I audible? Am I audible, sir? Yeah. Okay. My ears are small sometimes. Must be intentional, must plan, employ, pattern, position, right? And we also use McKinsey organization. So I'll give an example. I was in a project called Gibela Consortium, right? And there's intentionality there was that we understand this is a national project. It's a mega project for the country. And transformation was, and part of that is to say, let's have black-owned businesses and let's have women-owned businesses, black women-owned, BWOs, okay, and other legislative imperatives, right? And we achieved our targets because we all understood what is the requirement for us to achieve the targets of transformation. So there are cases that we can rely on as benchmarks to say it is doable. Another one, in automotive industry, I am part of automotive industry, we have transformation targets. Started with MITP, Motor Industrial Development Plan. Now we have what we call APTP, right, which is Advanced Production Development Plan, which seeks to capacitate suppliers from, I don't know, was that historically disadvantaged, or is that previously disadvantaged?
HDI.
So the HDI, suppliers from that sector to transform the sector to be more accommodative, right, and build a supplier pool of those sectors that were previously enclosed, right, and prohibited. So there are sectors that I think we need to take, a lead from, use it as a benchmark, and see how is it that they are able to achieve this transformation agenda, right? Even though it may not reach the yield in terms of what they anticipate, but it goes together with the strategy. So it's a cause and effect. How do you attract investors? What are the incentives you're giving them? And how does that talk to the transformation agenda? So you must enable the environment, and I think the policies, the legislation and regulations enable that. Triple PFA enables that 70-30 local content in construction, right? But now, again, it can also prohibit, because if you give a tender to a black-owned business, why are you asking for a 70-30? 70-30 was designed for a Maren Roberts, who is non-black, but will be giving an opportunity to transform the local content aspect of the contract so that the local businesses can participate. But now you give it to a Tabo. Tabo is already level 1. So why is it needing to have a 70-30? So again, we have to understand behind the legislation, what is it that we seek to achieve? And we have to review legislation as we review policy to understand, is it still feasible? Otherwise, then we will have a legislation that was crafted in 1928 that is not in touch with the reality of today. University entrepreneurship. I'll tell you, one of the universities, I can't name them, I advise in terms of curriculum, entrepreneurship is going to have a component of entrepreneurship. It's not going to be you go to university, you study. No. Entrepreneurship is not about sitting in a classroom. It's going to be practical, pragmatic, implementable as an entrepreneur. That is a type of education we must have, instead of us wanting to talk entrepreneurship, but the person has just got a paper.
True.
So I'm sharing this just to show that there are areas where we could influence from where we are, but there are also benchmarks that we need to learn from and try to spread into our sectors and service SETA, so that we can achieve, our desired outcomes. Like we say, in a qualification, we have learning outcomes. Why are we having this? There must be a learning outcome. So this is how we should always be thinking. So I think that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Appreciating the barriers that we have on the policies as well. Thank you for that, Kolani. You wanted to add, Tenani?
Yes, I think from my side, I want to add to him on the real estate. What?
Siyabonga.
Siyabonga, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. On his challenges that is facing on the quality of training, on the institution that are training for real estate. I think from the services SETA side, what they need to do when it comes to the monitoring, they need to have someone that is an expert on the real estate to go and do the monitoring. Because if someone is not an expert, even the material, like he's saying that the facilitator will be asking them as a student, what's next? And then there it's a question mark from the material that they are having. If the material, did the services SETA check that material that they are using? And again, if now we are going to more e-learning, so in that e-learning, when the service provider submit that material into the e-learning, do you get someone that is specializing on the real estate to look at that material that is going out there for the student to learn? So yes, I think if we can just drill on those one, then we'll have, because remember, real estate is the biggest industry.
It is.
And again, when it comes to transformation, it's a challenge as well. But if we can drill on the training so that when they are finished with their training, they can open their own estate agent.
Yes.
As he's saying that you are looking at someone who's there, he's already have a background of real estate. So for him, it's not even, it's something that he knows. But for someone black like me, then you get to real estate industry, you don't have a background, then you don't get a quality education, then it's just useless.
Thank you for those inputs, Delali. Please give her a hand. Can we check if we've got any comments, inputs online before we come back here? We must not forget our people on the other side. Dudu? Okay, let's take two from the floor. Okay, I'll start with you, ma'am, and then the gentleman that side. First, let's take two, and then we'll see how it goes. If there's nothing on the other platform, we will then take the other two. Thank you so much. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. I have a question to anybody who's able to answer the question, whether the panel or in the audience. In terms of transformation, transformation also speaks to the viability of business. COVID-19. What have we learned from such a pandemic? Are we ready in the event that something like that has to happen again? We speak about being agile. My learned colleague mentioned further than agility. What did you mention? Quantum. Right?
Human element to it.
Yes. So how will we survive should we go through another pandemic? Are we adhering to us moving into the fourth industrial revolution? How are we upskilling ourselves to have more than just our bachelor's qualifications that might not assist us in the evolution of technology? You know, the services SETA is doing learnerships continuously and all of that, but are we doing learnerships plus a skill to uplift the individuals who are benefiting from those learnerships? So for example, my colleague Rita over here mentioned that the call centers, they need to go to the township and things like that. Companies are not brick and mortar. How are we empowering them to be able to be contact center agents at their homes? You know, so for example, saying that the first stipend can go towards purchasing a laptop, next stipend can go towards infrastructure, you know, like your internet connections and stuff like that. We have learnerships that are possibly channeled towards administrative qualifications, but we're going to be doing away with administrators very soon. Already, this is a hybrid platform, right?
Yes.
We've got some Sophie technology who's probably interpreting this whole thing, and she's going to type it out. When I say she, I'm talking about technology.
Yes.
She's going to type it out into a document that I, as an administrator, would have had to listen to the audio for weeks and weeks on end before I actually have it in a document format. So when we are upskilling them and giving them NQF level 5, 6, 7 of administrative qualifications, what is the add-on for us to also still adapt to the direction that the world is going? So it's two questions. It's businesses, are they going to be viable in the event that we have such a pandemic again? Or are there going to be a lot of loss of employment? And also, how are we upskilling ourselves and also upskilling the ones that we are giving opportunities to have qualifications plus something that will enable them to be viable? Thank you.
How do we leverage? Artificial intelligence is here, colleagues.
I can try and touch on the viability and some of the exceptions. A chair will also help me, whereby when there is no profit, remember transformation is also very linked to the net profit after tax. You report and you comply based on your affordability. And there's that element also of if you are willing. Remember, it was said to be voluntary. But when it comes to skills, I think it's for us to look for things that would also perhaps not require just money. We also need to find means internally on how we can then make learning continuous. Like I think someone in the first panel mentioned that you need to live it. It needs to be like a lifestyle. It needs to come through your fingertips. What I have observed, having come in and out of corporate, is that we tend to also want to sit back and not take advantage of having, we used to call them gray beards, and then knowledge transfer. Learning can take place even outside of having to cough up money, but just through coaching, mentorship, and just watching when someone is working, when you ensure that when you work or when you are facilitating a meeting or when you are facilitating a certain a critical or a tender, something that will then allow a youngster that comes in to come and observe or to come and take part into a certain task within that space. And then when that process finishes or when that project finishes, they are not the same. So we shouldn't constrain learning to just what can be funded or what can entail exchange of money or cost. We need to make it on a daily basis. That is in terms of skills and transfer and knowledge transfer.
Okay, just to add to my colleague, so that also, as you said, in terms of COVID and that, which is an event that is a global change. So maybe as an organization, what is obviously an imperative is we have risk registers. You know, we talk about risk registers. It's part of organizational change management because from strategy, you need to always understand what is happening to the outside, which is why you do your PESTEL and your SWOT and all that and all that. So all these tools, they talk together.
Yeah.
So risk is, if I don't capacitate my people towards the new direction, we will be left behind. So I think it's always important, the review mechanisms and understanding the landscape, global landscape, is always imperative for us to always be aligned and be agile, as you were mentioning, agility is part of that. So I think I was just adding to my colleague, those are some of the things that are very important for us to always be in tune with,
Because besides the pandemic, we're looking at the macro objectives that we are facing with now. Inflation, your exchange rate, it's so bad. So what mitigations are in place right now as we speak? Never mind the next COVID that might come. So yeah, so I've got a question before I give our colleagues a chance to ask their questions. I've got two from online. One says, how do we in taxi industry, or what can be done to assist them to understand the quality, especially customers?
He just got blown away by that question.
Okay.
So they want to know, how do we implement quality management system in taxi industry? Or what can be done to assist them to understand the concept of quality, especially the customers? Now, being the commuters.
Yes,
Yes.
Look, from quality, I think what is important to note, quality management is a voluntary system, right? It's not legislation, so it cannot be legislated, number one. It's voluntary. So taxi industry is part of the transport infrastructure. And I think what is important, they've got different bodies, taxi associations, right? And I think what is needed there is to find a way to bring them together to understand how is it that we're going to have a synchronized approach to service our customers, which are the communities, a code of conduct, a code of behavior. How is it that we want to transform as a taxi industry to be a transport sector? And maybe the reason that it has taken so long for transport industry, like a taxi industry, to not transform speedily, there are some other variables, like they might have to pay tax, okay? This is a variable that maybe some are not exposed to or comfortable with. Tax association right through to now. I've been part, I understand it very well. But the problem is you need leadership, because in every sector you need and if you don't have leadership with accountability, then it even goes worse. So I think we have tried so much with our industry, facilitation through DTIC, to make sure that we influence different sectors to adopt the harmonization of how they do their work, so that the safety of citizens, because we are responsible for quality infrastructure, so as to make sure that whatever you eat, whatever you wear, whatever you drive, whatever you do, you are safe as a citizen of the country. So I think it takes the leadership to really be open to that as the question comes, that what are they seeing themselves as a sector? And are they willing to open up some of their, unlearn some of their, rigid positions about, are they willing to lose this to gain this, losses and gains? So there are a number of variables that influence that, but it is doable.
Are they also willing to knowledge that they are about service?
Yes.
Can they be customer-centric?
That is exactly.
Can we look
that
at
is
policies
exactly-
in terms of us feeling safe when we are around that space? Let's not even take that far. Let's take it to our workspaces. Are we feeling safe? Are our policies tight enough for sexual harassment? For us feeling safe that we can be here? For us, I mean, this is not about only taxis. We should bring it home and say, do we have those policies? Yes, we do. Are we protected as women? Do we even, yes, transformation is another story, but, you know, I think we need to, you know, exactly, we need to look at things like that. But anyway, I'll just read another one from online. It says, when saying transformation cannot be equated company, failing due to external factors. I'll just read it as it is, right? We'll just try to understand the meaning. When saying transformation cannot be equated, right? Company failing due to external factors, we are failing due to not transforming and doing things differently. Are you guys saying abandon transformation, equity in the economy in return to keep companies in business?
We have seen companies go down because they refused to transform. And also the whole requirement that for you to get certain tenders or access certain projects, you need to be transformed. So we're not in any way suggesting that transformation must be abandoned for businesses to continue. But we're saying the decision makers need to really weigh their options and understand how much of the market will I access if I'm hell-bent on not transforming? And also, how much of community do you want to impact if you're totally not interested in CSI, enterprise development? Exactly how will you exist? What type of people and values are you embracing if you're totally blind to what is going on around you?
So if you are saying your service is SETA, you're about service, and yet you do not respond to your stakeholders when they call, you do not respond to emails, how do you expect to be in existence in the next 5 years or so? This is what our board is always saying, to say one of our values is that we should be responsive. So to remain relevant within our industries, we need to ensure that it's just not pushing transformation, but also preaching what we're actually saying, to say, if we're about service, let's give service. We're here to do that, after all. We've got our last very was Mr. Sipo to give solutions.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Sipon Ndlovu. I'm from the trade union movement.
Welcome, sir.
Thanks. I think I've been sitting here listening what we have been engaging on. And I think we're missing the point, to me. And one of the things is that our view of transformation as a country, to some extent, it's a part-time one. Part-time in a sense that it does not address the core, the fundamental that others have spoken about. And to me, the core, it's consciousness. Starts from there. Because you can't build transformation on the basis of who's there. It must be built on the basis of systems that are going to carry us into the future. That's one. Legislation is there, but the agenda is not there. And that, to me, it's a disjuncture. You can't speak about the past and its atrocities and say we want to transform the nation, yet you don't have instruments that are going to take you there. You have left it at the discretion of individuals. Today in this country we've got Orania. It's an example that we are far from starting on transformation. It just tells you that. We even went to an extent that people decided, a particular minority group decided, we are going to build our own university. That tells you something. It speaks volume. We are very far away from even starting. And if we were to be to be realistic about transformation, it should start from our education systems. In the past 2 weeks, after receiving this invite, I went to look around and see who can I reference to engage on this parliament. And Japan as a country came tops to me. There's a deliberate program on teaching children from the word go. It's not about a grade 1 child writing exams and say who pass it. It's about values at that level. And we can't build transformation on the basis of a body-body arrangement. It doesn't work that way. The worst nightmare of it all is that our transformation is not about quality. It's about numbers. Many women have been, and I was saying this to Mama Belle earlier. Many women have been set up to fail under the name of transformation. Because you go into a system where patriarchy, and of which I'm a product of, enhances everything and decides for you. You are a token there. And we say that, no, we've got 200 black women who are CEOs in the country. We are lying to ourselves. The board is just a group of men who are old-fashioned. Their dynamics are just ancient. And we are expected to take a particular company forward. It cannot be. It can't be transformation. Therefore, I propose that, okay, I'm just finalizing now.
Sure.
One, it cannot be, our transformation must be about form, not appearance. To me, that's the first one. It must be about the form that we want to achieve. And we must also be wary of unintended consequences. Simply because we might overdo things and only to find that the other group reacts to an extent that they regroup. But one advice for my fellow, I don't like using the word black. I believe I'm an African. For my fellow Africans, one advice that I think I need to say, especially in business, let's stop being selfish. The reason that SMMEs are failing is because of selfishness. How many of, I just want to give an example.
I think let's give him a hand there, guys. We know it's true.
And I'll give an example with myself. When I was at varsity, at some point I struggled to pay my registration. I called my triplet sister, by the way, I'm a triplet, who was working at Standard Bank.
Okay.
And I said to her, I don't need money. I just need you to write a letter for me to say that I'll be able to pay this money next month. Just a letter and sign it.
Yo.
And I could not get it from my own sister. We were born on the same day of the same month. I just want to give her, how selfish are we amongst ourselves? Your brother runs a business. You can't help him simply because you want to compete with your own brother. And she can tell you, in the white community, does not happen that way. They help each other. In the Indian community, they do the same. It's simply because, as Africans, we have adopted foreign concepts that we want to live by, that we have lost our simple values of communal in doing things and lifting each other as a community. And that in itself, that's the kind of transformation. In actual fact, we don't need these nice concepts that we are given. Let's go back to our basic raising of our forefathers. We'll realize that transformation is much better there. Thank you.
Oh, Babsipo, you just wrapped it up for me. That's it. Charity begins where? At home. That was our last speaker. Unfortunately, we need to close. I'm going to call our EM, Umama Vele, to come close, but I would like to thank my panel. You were great. You did a good job. Our audience and online, thank you very much for your participation. I just want to say, in closing this panel, Umama Vele will come close the forum. Let our words be the seeds of change, our actions the nourishment, and our collective spirit the guiding light towards a future where transformation knows no boundaries. Together, let's embark on the journey of growth, understanding, and shared evolution. For it is our unity that the power of transformation truly thrives. I thank you. Mama Vele, come through.
She's coming. Wow. Tutu, can I please sit? Colleagues, thank you so much to each and every participant. I think, Toinette, we should have been the full day and maybe have the afternoon to discuss solutions. But let me thank the team, the chambers, and the colleagues from strategy and planning, the research team, because of, as we're preparing for this event, we're supported by our colleagues in research as well, trying to understand what we actually want to achieve out of this. I appreciate the Malcolm, Dudu, you and your team. The support from the CEO, for me, it means a lot. Coming from chambers and my fellow colleagues, the other executives that some could not attend due to year-end pressure. But I think I cannot do this without, could have not been done without my chamber chairpersons. And most importantly, our chairperson of the board, Mr. De Vries, who continuously reminds us of chambers' importance, the importance of industry at the work that we are doing as a SETA. And to that note, obviously we could have not done this without the audiences. When we were mobilizing without the industry, when we called and we said, please come teach us and educate us. So for us, we had a lot, but then it's culture, it's attitude. We can all talk. We can have 2-day session. But then if transformation is not deliberate, if it's not part of what you are doing on a daily basis, if you don't have a culture to transform, it does not help. So for me, that is the biggest taking. Remember, Julia, you always shouted at us to say, colleagues, can you just make transformation part of what you do on a daily basis? Johanna, she is frustrated most of the time, where she actually says, internally, she's tried so much to teach us about the importance of transformation. Let us give ourselves a hand of applause, because we've done very well. To be here, awareness is the most important thing to do. We are aware that we can do so much. We are aware that we need to go do self-introspections in terms of our culture and attitude towards transformation. What we took at high level, and our transformation committee chairperson should do the vote of thanks. At high level summary to do, we've had demographic segmentation transformational inputs. We have heard so much about, from the race point of view, from gender, areas, and education. There is a question that Ms. Moyo raised to say, are we prepared? And before we prepare, we need to talk about the qualifications we are developing. The inputs we are getting from industry must take us there. So we spoke about transformation from different occupations and skills and levels, which is what SETAs we are for. So the question is to then say, as we now looking forward to implement our 24-25 strategy, are we responding, are we considering the inputs we receive from the dialogue today? And CFO spoke about processes considering transformation from funding model, from our own internal processes, the turnaround time we take to pay SMMEs, the work that we are doing, the policies that we have, are they going to be the barriers for the SMMEs? Are we actually going to be supporting them? We spoke about transforming the entrepreneurs from a development and sustainability, supporting the SMMEs with the small things like resources, capacitating them. So the beauty of this dialogue, it was not more about your traditional transforming because of you were talking about race and gender. It was to say, how do we transform the sector through the value chain? So What we then realized as a team, as we're reflecting with all the organizing colleagues, we realized that we were getting inputs, we rushed in terms of time, and so what we will be doing, we will actually develop a template that we are asking for solutions, industry-specific inputs. And then what our planning is that with the transformation department and the colleagues from Marcom, we open it for at least 2 weeks. We allow you after today so that you can give us specific inputs that can be meaningful after today's discussion, that can be structured, because we got a lot. We really, this was long overdue, and we are happy, but then we realized that we're not going to end it here. So that at least when we're done, we're going to compile it and share with everyone to say, this is the takings. But my plea, the takings are not only for services SETA to implement. We are all responsible from our own corners, being employer, professional body, government, labor, SMME, you as an individual. So it's going to be a document that we are saying that is our document from the dialogue for all of us to see what we can do in our own corners. So thank you so much, colleagues, for the time. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm sure everybody is a bit hungry. Juice has gone down. That does not mean we're about to finish. Mine is a bit of finding closure. When people have been together, there is a saying, you have to say thank you. 1, 2, there are so many discussions like she has mentioned. But I think everybody that came here came with a purpose. And we are so grateful that you did your best. You gave it your best shot. There were nice words, English words. Correlation was one of them. Collaboration was another. Being inclusive was another one. That we need to be sensitive. There was a term that came from another corner that talked about quantum. Yes. Quantum humanity. That's what we're missing in this journey. We want to talk regulations. We're forgetting that we're becoming insensitive as we go along because we're talking regulations or legal frameworks, whatever it's called. Can we just take back that humanity? That quantum made sense. Oh, there's some lady that came from a corner. I'm not saying other people didn't do anything. There is a group, I missed the organization, she stood over there. That energy, bring it back again. We need the energy in the house. We need the energy in the country. We need the energy for transformation because it's very sensitive. Somebody said we're running away from talking about the real issues. Hey, we need to be vigilant. We need to be, I don't know how to talk politics, but we need to, we need that gaya, that vuma thing. Because we want it to work. If we're not having that energy, who's going to do it for us? I would have loved the script to be changed for the call centers. Okay, there's digital stuff. There's even the people that are given a script. When you say something, they can't change from the script. Now we're human. Please. It's just an input. To all the people that were here, you were such a good audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, sorry. My apologies. There is a disadvantage of being a grown-up. You get to be thrown every other function. So we have kept you here for too long. As a courtesy, of this family called Services SETA, we do offer, though it's a bit late, there's lunch.
Cheers. Where are my panels?
Oh,
Hello. Oh gosh, sorry. May we please have the pictures for with all the panelists?